Away, oh hey, away, oh hi, hey, oh, away, oh hey, 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 away, oh hey, 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 away, oh hey, hey, away, oh hey, hey,
I came into the Peace and Friendship Project when I recently moved to the Maritimes from Colorado. So my job at the time was working in a prison ministry, working with people leaving prison and helping them with reintegration, so connecting them with outside supports. So didn't actually that job have anything to do with peace and friendship, but the people who brought me here from Colorado suggested that I go to this gathering to really better understand the land that I was living on. And I really appreciated that because I've lived a lot of places and nobody's ever suggested something like that before. But I had no idea what I was doing. The people who brought me there weren't there either. And so I was kind of dropped into the gathering, which was quite an intense experience of listening and trying to make sense of it. I didn't know. I knew more about American history with Indigenous peoples, not as much about Canadian, even though I'd grown up in Canada. The first gatherings that I went to, it was really all about listening and finding people to process through things with, because I mean you're hearing stories and realizing your complicity in suffering, realizing your ancestors' complicity, especially if you've ever thought good things about your ancestors coming here as pioneers, and realizing your own, the way that you are still privileged down the line, and that racism continues to act both systemically and personally, and yeah, so it's an awful lot. So for me, I remember reaching out to a lot of different people who had been connected to peace and friendship or who had been doing this work in different places for many years. And I remember one person told me for her it was so helpful to reach for curiosity instead of judgment, and not just judgment of other people, but judgment of herself, when just to notice, oh, I'm feeling this, and then to ask herself, what's that about? Where's that coming from? And is this something I need to keep or work through or what? And I think that has really helped me, because I personally tend to be more interested in I reach for judgment of myself very quickly, and that was a real helpful thing. And then just the constant reminders to listen, and I think just the fact that peace and friendship is so based around people talking and sharing in a sacred, safe space. So really learning to be in relationship in new ways, and to look at the history of colonialism and the legacy of colonialism, and be questioning in new ways, and being open to that. And I'm really grateful that I had the people around me with whom I could process and continue to process, because it's definitely an ongoing thing. I actually do end up with people telling me that they would like to work with Indigenous folk from time to time, and perhaps they've never connected before, or their knowledge of the need for reconciliation and change is very superficial. So one thing I often send them is a native protocol that was written by an elder, white turtle woman, and that's a starting place for them to look at it. And then I will definitely be, talking with them about leaving their comfort zones. I sometimes get the requests, let's invite somebody to our church, or let's invite somebody to our community hall. And it's like, well, instead of assuming that somebody feels safe in the place where you feel safe, why don't you see about going someplace where you might not feel as safe, but they will. And definitely trying to, I recommend that people do a blanket exercise, a Kairos blanket exercise, to understand the history and where things are coming from. and there are definitely some books that I would send. I feel like if you don't understand the need for reconciliation, if you don't understand the privilege that settlers have, that's something that you need to learn. I'm not saying you need to learn everything before you start connecting, but it's something that you should understand. The beginning of before you start inviting people to come into your safe spaces and educate you. And I think that as a settler myself, I have a responsibility to be sharing this information with other settlers and this invitation to learn more and to change ourselves. That apologies aren't the answer, they're the beginning.
Away.